legend.
Good evening, everybody.
Detroiter.
The point is that good things are being said about Detroit and Michigan, and not just by Detroiters and people from Michigan.
Anchorman.
In America, money talks.
Opinionated.
I'm tired of talking to you.
Okay, fine. I'm tired of talking to you. See you later.
Controversial.
I don't scare you, and you damn sure don't scare me.
Icon.
There is nothing more exciting than a hard-working, big city news department.
Tonight, we pay tribute to the king of Detroit television, Bill Bonds. Good evening. Thanks for joining us as we remember a man who is truly one of a kind.
Detroit tuned in to see Bill Bonds for decades. And yes, sometimes he made news himself, but you could always count on Bill to say what many others were thinking.
Bill passed away from a heart attack last Saturday, and tonight, Jim Kirchner begins our tribute with the final farewell.
It's a good day to cry, isn't it? It's all right to cry. Let's cry. He was a good man. He was a great man. He was a pain in the ass, and he was wonderful to laugh with.
We all knew Bill Bonds one way or the other, on TV, on the town, through his reputation. Nobody knew him like his own blood relatives. He was the go-to guy for them, too.
And he was always there. He always knew the right thing to say. I didn't always want to hear it, but he always had the right thing to say.
His son told the service his favorite story about how his dad pulled him out of Catholic school on a ruse. To help his grandmother move? Not so much.
And we get to the car, and I said, Dad, I didn't know Grandma was moving today. He said, well, Johnny, it's actually opening day, and we're going to Tiger Stadium.
And the life lesson? A typical Bonds punchline.
Sometimes you've got to lie to the nuns.
Everybody wants to know, was he as tough as a dad as he was as a newsman?
He was a teddy bear, and he would do anything for my sister and I. We were like his princesses. He would do anything for me.
It's not just what he said, but also what he did for his kids.
His perseverance, tenacity, and commitment, he never gave up on anything in his life. And he always made his dreams come true, and I got that from him.
Another daughter, Christine, told her future husband, Bill Bonds, set the bar high.
You've got some pretty big shoes to fill. I said, can you give me an idea what I'm up against? She goes, every time I walk in the room, you need to light up, to give me no pushback, and always affirm everything I say, and you'll be just like my dad.
Bill signed off his broadcasts. Have a pleasant, peaceful evening. Good night. And to you, Bill, rest in peace.
And we all wish that for Bill. Thank you so much, Jim. Bill Bonds knew how to push people's buttons for sure. Love him or hate him, everyone tuned in to watch him.
He was a gifted storyteller, but perhaps one of the most fascinating stories, his own.
Our longtime friend and colleague Eric Smith has a look back at the life and legacy of Bill Bonds.
Good evening, everybody. Dangerous weather conditions exist right now, so keep an eye.
At times, he was almost larger than life, and at times, life proved to be much larger than he ever thought it could be. For some 30 years, he ruled the Detroit news scene with the God-given gifts of intellect, style, passion, and an unfettered ego. He was the king of Detroit TV, and he knew it.
Well, whatever you do, you little pilgrims, you don't tear down Billy's throne. That's the way it is around here at Channel 7.
Like so many who came before him, Bill cut his first news teeth in local radio. Then in the mid-1960s, he was summoned to his ordained destiny in television.
Dr. King's standpoint, wouldn't it be virtually impossible to economically boycott Alabama without the participation of the Teamster Union?
Then in 4 frightful days in July 1967, fate intervened. As buildings burned and gunshots rang out in the city streets, Bill Bonds became the voice of the nation's worst urban riot.
We said it couldn't happen here. Things were too good, but it did, and the nation was shocked.
He was the information lightning rod, sorting fact from rumor, truth from tragedy, life from death. They were called the days of madness for good reason, and they changed Bill Bonds and local news in Detroit forever. It was not long before Bill and the Channel 7 news team had become the city's #1 choice for news and information. Bill's reputation had begun to grow beyond Detroit, and it was not long before New York and Los Angeles were calling. He went for a while, but in the mid-1970s he was back where he belonged. The king came home, and his subjects paid homage once again, making him #1 for many years to come. The success came with a price tag, of course. Bill became the highest-paid local news anchorman in America. The paper said he made over $1 million a year, but the money and the fame came with other costs.
You do some damn stupid, destructive things when you're drinking.
I know it did not come as a great surprise to you that I am an alcoholic.
Alcohol became a best friend, and unfortunately traveled too often with him in the car. Ultimately, his friend in the bottle was able to do what no other media competitor could do. It dethroned the king. We had grieved with him when a drunk driver took the life of his daughter. We had laughed with him when he challenged Coleman Young to a fist fight. We had shared the jokes about his toupees. We had watched him trade barbs and hurl questions at the high and the mighty.
Look, I go through enough crap back here. I don't have to go through it with you.
Well,
and let me tell you something.
No, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something.
No, you tell yourself something. I'm tired of talking to you.
Okay, fine. I'm tired of talking to you.
And then one day, it was just suddenly all over. It would never be quite the same at 5, 6, or 11. Yes, the king fought back and came back, this time without his friend in the bottle. His commentaries, once the meat of the lion, seemed to have lost their punch on the MTV generation. Soon after, he reappeared as a paid spokesman for a local furniture store. The ads were empty reminders of another, better time in the king's reign, when the blue eyes and the staccato delivery heralded moments of importance in our city's history. It was often said, in good-natured jest, that Bill Bonds was a legend in his own mind. Today, as we mark his passing, it must be said that Bill truly is and was a legend in his own remarkable time. He was my friend. He was my teacher and, for a time, a mentor. I shall miss him. The king is dead. Long lived the king.
Wow. Wow, amazing.
Amen.
To look back, right? Eric Smith, of course, joins us now to share more of his memories. And I know, Eric, you often told me you started here at 19, and you said there he was your mentor and he was your teacher. He taught you the ropes, right?
He did. After I disagreed with his hiring, which was a great joke, which we laughed about many years, but I told the news director at the time, I said, you can't hire this man. He's got an ego, build it bigger than Broadcast House. But I was obviously very wrong, but we had a lot of fun. Billy and I had just a wonderful relationship. Yeah, I'm thinking about it today. I actually never worked with Bill on the air, other than, you know, I was in the morning and he was at night, and we just didn't cross paths, except for a period of time when I was the weatherman, because our weatherman, Jim Smith, had a heart attack, and I'm going way back now, back into the 60s, and I had to do the weather, and we that was really the only time the two of us shared the anchor desk.
Eric, do you think he was so strong despite his weaknesses or because of his weaknesses?
Well, I don't think there were many weaknesses other than he loved his family, and we had a lot of milk and cookies together, okay? But it was a different time. I think, honestly, I think what made him strong was the love that he got from the people in the city of Detroit.
And everyone did love him.
Everybody, well...
I mean, I know there were some people who said, no, I hate him, but everyone watched him.
Yeah, everybody would watch, and that was the important part. But when he was out on the street, I mean, the room would light up when he walked in. And it was just that charisma that very few of us carry around with us.
Yeah.
Eric was there on the stage with Bill on the last big public appearance, which was in June at the local Emmy Awards there.
Yes, indeed. Bill received the Governor's Award for his distinguished career in television. It would be his final bow, and he took a moment to reflect.
Life has been, how do I say this? Life has been incredibly good. for Billy Bonds and his friends.
The best there ever was, anchorman and Hall of Fame journalist Bill Bonds.
And in 2010, Bill took his rightful place in the Michigan Journalism Hall of Fame, proudly accepting while he fought back tears with a few humble one-liners.
I earned it. Thank you very much, and good night, everybody. There is nothing more exciting than a hard-working, big city news department. You walk in, and people bowed down when I walked in, but then when you walk in, this is a great honor for me. We did it. I get the plaque, but from me, you get the love and respect and the thank yous that you deserve. I'm so proud to be here. This is maybe one of the great nights of my life, and it capped some wonderful, marvelous years for me and my family, for you. And I mean, we worked together. You know how many thousands of shows we did over 20 years? God almighty.
We spent most of our life together.
Yeah, we really did.
My husband's still jealous.
Oh, and there they are, all together. Bill will be the first to tell you he had the best co-anchors in the business. For sure he did, with Diana Lewis and Robbie Timmons, who join us tonight right here in our studio.
All right, so what did you guys think when you first sat down with him? Because as experienced as you guys both are, he was still a legend by the time you started with him.
First of all, we are the other women.
We are, exactly. We are the other wives. That's what we are.
You know, think of the time we spent with him. We spent with him
It
as
was
much time with him
amazing.
as his wives
did, possibly more.
Oh, amazing, and such an experience. I mean, every day, a challenge, but yet a lesson.
Yeah.
And that's why we didn't want to know what he was going to say, the commentaries or anything. We didn't want to know. I wanted to be as surprised and enriched as the people at home.
And he did that, didn't he?
He
I mean, he kept everybody surprised. You never knew what he was going to say. You never kind of knew what was going on, but that was his attraction. That's what the viewers loved. They were saying that they never wanted to miss a newscast because they were afraid they were going to miss something.
Now, you both, of course, are legends in your own right and icons and beloved in this community, but, I mean, give us one thing about Bill that people don't know. I mean, a secret.
Oh, he has a wonderful heart. You know, it's not that it's all about me kind of a guy. Bill had the biggest heart in the world. I played Elf many Christmases. I filled out names and put $100 bills, $400 or $500 bills for people in the community. I paid heating bills for a couple of people who worked here. I was the secret person that Bill, damn it, put this on there, put that in there, and get it right, D. I mean, his heart was big. He helped everyone. Bill Bonds cared, and Bill Bonds loved the community and the underdog.
I think there was a lot, though, that wasn't secret. I think what you saw with Bill Bonds, was Bill Bonds. That's what you got. He had an ego. How many times would he say to most of us, "Do you love me as much as I love me?"
Diana, Robbie, thank you so much. They know all too well that Bill was famous and sometimes infamous for his commentaries.
Let's take a quick look at some clips from the Channel 7 archives. Check it out.
It's really the old American dilemma. Increase his taxes, but don't increase mine. Take his benefits away, but don't take mine away. You know, privacy is a right in this country that hundreds of thousands of men fought and got killed to protect.
The problem is the Jewish people and the Palestinians. They can't, won't, or will not, or all of the above, compromise.
The point is that good things are being said about Detroit and Michigan, and not just by Detroiters and people from Michigan, but by some very smart, sophisticated cookies around this country. Now, if we could just get those little filthy-mouthed boys and girls in the bleachers to shut up and somehow get Bill Bonds to stop editorializing all the time, everything would be perfect.
I don't scare you, and you damn sure don't scare me. Now, how about you and me sparring a couple of rounds?
Wow. All right, now that last clip, of course,
That's
is where he challenged Mayor Coleman Young to a boxing match. Diana and Robbie.
I was going to walk around in the bathing suit with round 3.
But how much fun was that? I mean, they met later and just both of them laughed about the whole thing, you know, so they both made fun of it.
Can
He
I
did
tell
some
you?
outrageous things on the air.
Absolutely,
A little
he did.
Coleman Young story.
Yes.
We started a segment called Up Front. Everyone was nervous to go on with Bill. It takes cameraman, good friend Nate Penn to tell the story. We had to calm people down. What is he going to say? What do you think he's going to do?
He was going to ask you.
So we had the mayor on. The mayor's expense account was released. We're going over the account. I'm wondering, what is Billy going to say? What am I going to say? So we get into the interview. Bill does Bill's thing. I ask my questions. Brilliant writer, Bill Becker, John Terry, Barry Cuff, you know, these people put together brilliant questions. So at the end of the interview, I did this. I went, damn it, Bill. I really wanted to ask him, what about the money for the cigarettes? You're telling us the city of Detroit is going broke and we're spending all that money for your cigarettes. I said, but that was such a little question. He took his time and he looked at me and he said, that was the question you should have asked. That came from your gut. And that's where the people are, in your gut. That's the question you ask. All the other questions, those are cushions for me, he said. After I get out everything I want to get out, and if there's time, and most times there wasn't, then I'll go to these brilliant questions that the writers put there. But you go with your gut. That's where the people are.
And likely what people were thinking at home. That
Exactly.
Is what you
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. One of my favorite up fronts is with the Girl Scout cookies, because he came out and he was saying, you know, we're not allowed to promote Girl Scout cookies. So he said, so I won't. And of course, the entire up front was about Girl Scout cookies and all the flavors and where you could buy them. So.
Well, he bought a lot of them.
Oh, yes, he did.
From Glenda,
Exactly.
the only brown brownie
Right.
walking around. He said, I want to make her really important. He bought all the cookies, hundreds of dollars of cookies.
Right. You know, I heard a story, too, that he even paid. I know we got to go. Thank you. We could talk forever about it. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you both very much for coming.
Thank
here.
you. Yeah.
Bill had a quick wit and a sense of humor as big as his ego that he freely admitted to carrying around with himself.
Yes, indeed. He loved to laugh, and former sports director Don Shane had a great humor when he was on the set with Bill. Sometimes they fight a little bit when they were talking about sports, but Bill loved sports, and he loved Don Shane, too. Take a listen.
You ever thought about doing any sports anchoring at 11 or 5?
Listen, he's been carrying you ever since he came here.
Thank you.
I guess just about everybody has put the fork in the Tigers, saying they're done.
It sounds like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. There's something going on in that team. I don't know what it is, but I think it'll come out. But anyway, the Super Bowl-bound Detroit Lions are at the top.
You're on their bandwagon, Billy?
Oh, absolutely.
He always says this time of year.
That's right, Robbie. I'm glad you said that.
I'm here, Billy.
By God.
Will small miracles never cease?
You know, Don, you're paid. Here at last. Here's Donnie.
These are great, don't you think?
All right. Don, what do you think about that little stunt?
That's a dare Don. That was a dare Don.
That was a dare Don, okay.
A viewer sent to me and said, be Billy. Act like Billy, get a wig, dress like Billy, go on the air and be Billy. Well, we had to get management's approval, of course. We had to get Karen's approval, of course.
Right.
Diana was in on it. Everybody was in on it except for Billy.
Oh!
He didn't like that, and out I came, and he responded the way he did. What you don't see on the clip that happened right after that is Billy going, you want to be me? Okay, you can be me. And he stood up, he threw the microphone down on the desk, and he stormed out of the studio. He didn't show up the next day, and everybody thought he was mad at me. He wasn't mad at me. He could take it as well as he could dish it out. He wasn't mad at me at all. He was just had a scheduled day off.
You all had such a great time on the set. I used to watch you. And sometimes people thought you all were actually fighting about the sports, but that was really just a team thing that you did between each other.
That was Billy being Billy and me being me, and our heads clashing a little bit.
So you did really clash?
Yeah, of course we did. But it was never mean-spirited. It was always kind of fun. I mean, look at the thing with Chuck Daly, right? He took the act out of the studio into the field, and he went and did his bit with Chuck Daly, trying to get me. And Chuck stood up for me. That's perfect for Billy to be in that situation.
Well, I got to tell you, you're the greatest sports guy in this town that we've ever seen, and you and Billy together, which is fabulous.
Oh, you're really nice. I have to tell one story. I've been given permission to tell one story. All right. Middle of the winter, station sends me and Billy down to Jacksonville to shoot a promo about our on-air relationship. We spend time and we do that. We get up at 6 in the morning each day, and at noon we're done because it's too hot to shoot, and Billy and I went and played golf every day. Come Sunday, it's time to go home. Billy's not going home. Billy says to me, you go home. I said, what do I tell him? He says, you tell him I missed the plane. You missed the plane? How did I make the plane to get out? You tell him I missed the plane. I said, okay. I come back home. Monday I walk into the station. Bob Rowe, the news director, calls me in and said, how'd it go with Billy? Went fine. Everything was perfect. You guys got along? Yeah, we had great. He says, okay, that's all I need to know. Well, Billy didn't show up Monday. And Billy didn't show up Tuesday.
Ooh.
And Billy didn't show up Wednesday. And Billy didn't show up Thursday. Billy showed up Friday. He walked into the room, to the newsroom, and he saw me and he said, hey, Donnie, come here. This is what he said to me. Did they ask about me? Did they ask about you?
After 5 days
Of course. Yeah. What did you tell him? I said, I told him you missed the plane. He goes, attaboy.
All right.
Don, thank you so much. Hey, Bill had a starring role in some of the most talked about news promotions ever made.
Just one look, and you can see why all of them grab so much attention.
Well, you just saw it. Cecil smacked the big one, and then he crunched another one just for good measure. Good evening, everybody. Tiger first baseman Cecil Fielder, who played baseball in Japan last year, joins the elite members of America's pastime tonight. He hit his 50th and 51st home runs this year at Yankee Stadium in New York in the Tigers' final game of the season. Only one Tiger and 10 other players in baseball history have ever hit 50 or more in one year. And Channel 7's Don Shane, whose sports crew has been working busy all night, is with us now on this historic evening. And he's a nice kid, too.
He is a great kid. And if you notice, if you watched all his home runs all year, he rarely, if ever, smiled. Tonight, when he was coming around on 50, huge grin. This guy overcame tremendous media pressure, people who doubted he could do it, pitchers.
Wow, look at that baby face. Look at that baby face. So very many memories here at Channel 7.
I remember because I was a young reporter, I think in Wichita, Kansas, and I'd been in the business about 2 years. And I remember seeing the first of these promos starring this guy, Bill Bonds, with his co-anchors, and it turned out to be all you guys. But I remember thinking back in those days, wow, someday I could be like that.
Well, it took us like 10 or 12 takes for each one of those promos, too, because, you know, we'd start cutting up, and then we'd start laughing, and Bill would start cracking jokes, and the producer would say, come on, settle down, we got to do this, we got to do this, and like an hour later, we're still trying to do it.
I think the best promo that I ever saw of Bill is the one when they were singing, "Don't mess with Bill." Right. No, right?
Don't let him put the collar up. He loved that one. He loved that.
Yeah.
And all the Christmas promos, those were fun, too. Yeah.
I think the Christmas promos were the best. Remember the one when you all came down the elevator and all of you were waving to people? I think the thing that I remember most growing up and watching Channel 7 is everyone in our community knew each of you and the reporters by name. You know what I mean?
Yeah, everybody. Very personal.
Don, I want to ask you, what promo could you possibly have had to go to Florida to shoot?
We shot the "You're Out, You're Safe" one where we disagreed on the play, and it was part of our disagreement, kind of like happy talk all the time.
And you couldn't do that over down the street at the...
No, they had to go to Florida.
We had no problems at that time taking long trips with really great promo stuff being shot. You know what? I'll never forget my very first night on the air here at Channel 7. I sat down on the set, and Diana's sitting there, and Billy's sitting there. And Billy and I got into a little, we differed. Let's put it that way.
You gently disagreed.
No, actually, you differed. We didn't differ, you differed.
And when we had finished talking, he turned to me and he said, "Nice working with you, Don."
You couldn't disagree with him very often, though, right?
No,
you couldn't, not on the set. That way you weren't going to question
well,
him.
as you know, the only time that I had him speechless is we're on air and he's joking with me and stuff like that. So I said, well, you know, Billy, you know I make more money than you do. And of course he went, he's $1 million, right? And I says, well, think about it. You know, for the entire newscast, how much do you talk? How much do I talk? My price per word is much higher than yours.
He probably wouldn't renegotiate.
No, and he thought about it and he went, yeah, you're probably right.
He was just so engaging.
Exactly.
I mean, open the lines of communications. You said that you would like to be that way. You are. You impress me that way. The back channel, I mean, you embrace people, and that was Bill Bonds. He knew how to embrace you, make you feel comfortable, and just be innovative like you're doing and open the lines of communications. That's what it's all about.
And he always made you feel like you were in the studio with him, right? When he was talking to people behind the scenes, or he'd tell you to back up the front
well, and
and
the viewers felt like he was in their living room talking to them.
Absolutely.
It's only fitting that Bill gets the last word tonight.
We want to leave you with one of his favorite stories from when he was a young reporter and tried to score an interview with the president.
And he shared that story with the crowd at his induction into the Michigan Journalism Hall of Fame.
And it is the kind of classic moment that will forever live in the hearts and memories of those who loved and admired Bill Bonds so much.
I was going to tell one little story about LBJ. Do you want to hear it?
Yes.
Well, I've forgotten it. My memory's no good, but let me make it. Anyway, there was a tornado. LBJ comes into town, and this is just gut work, and this isn't genius. This is what, you know, if you're kind of a good reporter, you do it, and it pays off. You know, a hunch to this or that, and I did a lot of hunching. And LBJ's at the airport. I got my presidential, credentials. His plane lands, comes down the gangplank. The fans are over here waving, "Hi, LBJ, hi, LBJ." The tornado hits. And I said to my cameraman, let's go out and see if we can't meet LBJ. I'll get a one-on-one with the most powerful man in the world. And Braddock says, "You're nuts, Bill." I said, "Let's try." So we're going like this. Now, I'm 6'1", 185 pounds of blue twisted Irish steel, broad shoulders, narrow hips. Most of the time, a great head of hair. And I walk up to LBJ. His head's about this big. He's got earlobes that weigh 9 pounds apiece. I stick my microphone and I said, Mr. President, Bill Bonds, ABC News Detroit, there's been terrible, terrible damage and people hurt and killed. He says, boy, get that goddamn microphone out. Get that goddamn microphone out of this president's face. And he walked over me. And all the fans says, way to go, Billy! So I did, and we had a great run, and I wish I was still doing it.